Good evening and welcome to Hanifa Up Close and Personal. This is another series of getting to know Hanifa up close and personal. I hope you have enjoyed our previous series of visiting with friends from childhood to high school and just reminiscing over old times, talking about our collective work and responsibility together to build the city of Wilmington. So you've learned a little bit about me and my childhood and my working in entrepreneurship. So I'd like to just take you and invite some great friends that I have with me in tonight's show to talk about our collective work in doing community-based economic development. I have a friend here that has been a friend of mine since, we don't want to say that because we start telling about our age, but we not only are good friends, but we're also good working colleagues. And I've learned so much from her. Many of the accomplishments I've been able to do in my position as a legislator has been through work in programming and initiatives that has come from the mind and heart of this lovely lady. So I want to introduce the three ladies I have with me who all have some long time history with me, whether it's from the neighborhood house or just from the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. But just shows how when you work together and you talk together about different your passions, that all the planets have a joining on, as they say. And we focus together and use our resources to do what? Community-based economic development. So I'd like to begin with, first introducing my sister, my friend, Raheeemah Jabbar-Bey. Raheeemah, welcome to Hanifa Up Close and Personal.
Thank you so much. This is really an honor, and I'm humbled, and this is fun.
And you'd have been right here with me. No matter what everybody said, they know that Raheeemah's going to be somewhere here with Hanifa Up Close and Personal. So it's the honor. It's just what we do together, sis.
That's true.
Yes.
And I wanted to share that it's because we have not only a love for each other as sisters, and even that is based on our shared values.
Yes.
And that's what brought us together. Oh, goodness, years ago.
Yeah, I think the first time we got the chance to know each other, we both were in the community, we both were doing things, and this new ideology came about, community-based economic development. And I give all the credit to you and your late husband, Brother Chemo Jabbar-Bey, on the whole movement of community-based economic development. Share a little bit what that actually means.
Importantly, when we came here to Delaware, initially in 1976, we were struck by all of the different things that were happening socially, economically. The schools were changing.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. 1976, the bicentennial of the country, and Delaware was just then beginning to integrate their public schools. That was scary.
Yeah.
1954, 1976. And we also learned that there had been some really strong community organizing in the 60s, and then it seemed to have kind of fallen off. And then we met you and Hanifa and understood that there were kindred spirits, that we shared values about the upliftment of our people. And that's not just African Americans, but you have to focus on the least of these first. And in a country like ours, in a state like ours, and at the time, DuPont was king. Everybody, quote, had a job, right? Ooh, if you didn't work for DuPont, they like, well, where do you work? What do you do?
So, Sister Raheeemah, in all of that, knowing exactly what community-based economic development means, it means the community. Our community-based means the community themselves.
Right.
The citizens, the neighbors coming together through civic association, planning councils. Community-based economic, looking at what do we do to build our economic stability and resilience. Development. Developing the daycares, developing the corner stores, developing the laundromats in our own base community. That's the movement that got me fired up.
And the point was, it wasn't just developing, it was ownership. Because in the United States of America, you have to own something.
That's correct.
Land, labor, capital. And that's what this whole movement was. And it actually started in the late 50s.
Oh, we're really late. 2020. So we have really kind of caught up somewhat, I would say, based on the time in Wilmington, Delaware, because we have several community development corporations, because that's what it's formed, a community development corporation that is organized by the community.
Right.
And so you have worked strongly with the Central Baptist Community-Based Community Development Corporation. Tell us a little bit about that. I want to add one other thing too. The development we're talking about was not just developing a brick and mortar.
No.
It was of the human stuff, the residents who live there, because it's there. The community belongs to them, and they have to have an investment in it. And they do so by developing the community to do the work that's necessary. Quickly, tell us a little bit about the Central Baptist CDC.
Well, first of all, I want everyone to know this is our 10th anniversary. Yes, it was founded in 2010 by a visionary who happened to be sent here by the Baptist Church. I don't know all the terminologies. You all know I'm not Christian, no problem. And that's another thing. It was so humbling and an honor for me to be asked to be the chairperson, and we're a family. That board is a family. We love each other. We respect each other. Mm-hmm. 10 years. So Reverend Terrence S. Keeling was sent to Delaware, to Wilmington, and I can give you a quote. He said in the first 3 months, he kept looking around the east side. You know where the church is located, 9th and Pine. Mm-hmm. And he was like, there's just so much devastation. There's so much need to build the human capital, to fix up the housing, to make the community more beautiful, and to have the ownership be in the community. And
what has Reverend Keeling done in those 10 years? I mean, I just want to get right to the point. So he's done so much in those 10 years. I mean, share with me.
Well, there have been 3 areas of work that the CDC decided to address. Workforce development and employment and job training. So all of that's together. Workforce development and employment, job placement.
Okay.
Secondly, that part of the east side, as many other communities, is a food desert. There's no real quick access to grocery stores, mainly corner stores, and they're needed, but they're not selling fresh vegetables, fresh produce.
And that's urban acres, correct?
Urban acres became that. And our third area, again, integrated, none of these stand alone, is housing development. Housing development to help people in the east side and other parts of the city to actually become homeowners, and where needed, rental. But the objective of the CDC is to raise the home ownership rate on the east side.
True community-based economic development. Absolutely.
And importantly, in every one of those areas, we have been able to employ people. The staff for the workforce development comes from the community. The staff for Urban Acres comes from the community, and that's east side and throughout Wilmington.
Sure.
And the staff for housing. We just completed the rehabilitation, the beautiful renovation of 5 houses for home ownership on 30th Street.
And so that's community-based economic development in full force.
And I have to add this, importantly, yes, there are good people across all communities who want to help, quote, low-income people, poor people, people who are disadvantaged. What about people helping themselves? So the difference between a CDC and maybe a nonprofit that provides social services, even though some CDCs will provide social services, it's about developing the people.
That's correct.
Not just building things.
So I got another tool that you've brought to the city of Wilmington, and I do have another example of community-based development that we're going to talk about with another one of my guests. But I want to talk about the community benefits agreement, and that kind of gives me to go to to another guest. Reverend Lottie Lee. That's how we've kind of known each other because it's Wilmington.
Right.
And if you're in the community doing something, you know each other, or you see each other's face. But we really got engaged when we did the community benefits agreement, another resourceful tool that was brought to us by our sister Raheeemah Jabbar-Bey.
Yes.
But we did a community benefits agreement together in South Wilmington, and you were one of the stakeholders that came together to form that. Share some of that experience.
That was excellent. It was very new for me. And first of all, thank you for allowing me to be on here. It's a pleasure.
It's an honor to have
and
you.
I'm honored to be with longtime friend, Raheeemah and Miss Sargent. So, but it was really an honor, and it was so exciting because it was the community having the opportunity to tell corporations that you're coming into my community and we're going to benefit as well.
Right.
And so we were able to get resources for the neighborhood house, some training programs, and some employment opportunities through that agreement. And again, Dr. Bey was very essential in bringing the entire concept to us.
Right. And what I would like to get the listening audience to understand of how we were able to leverage that power as a community to talk to a developer wanting to do something in our district was because there was a development project that was wanting to come into Southbridge, and they needed a variance. And so many of you might get a letter in the mail that says that it's a zoning board meeting and that, you know, they were telling you that somebody's asking for a variance. That notification is telling you that you have a voice to say yay or nay that you want this initiative to come into your community. And you have the right to speak up and say, well, if you're coming to my community and you're going to make these changes, might be more traffic, it might be more pollution, you know, you might be taking away a open space, whatever might be required, then that's leverage to say, well, what are you going to do for me and how this is going to benefit our community? And we knew that that project, and we've done several, I think 4 or 5 over in Southbridge,
yes.
We knew that if this was coming, that meant that there was some employment possibilities. Okay, resources, and you talked about it and supported a training program.
Correct.
Our community center neighborhood house was in need, and so we used that to say, well, we'll work with you and we'll help you to become prosperous, but you're going to have to also do something on the benefit the community as well. Even if it could be landscape, it could be lighting, but you have a power in your hand when you get that letter in the mail that says this a zoning is coming about, a zoning request is coming about. So, I mean, that was a great time. And ever since then, Lottie, you and I paths has crossed as we continue to do community-based development. And you're now, just don't know how proud I was to be at that groundbreaking for Be Ready, Central,
CDC.
Be Ready, CDC.
Mm-hmm.
And you got a major development happening on the west side of town. Share with the audience about your major, fantastic project.
Yeah. Before I even start with that, I would like to start with the park because I think that was a very critical part for us in the community. We had a very devastated park. Prostitution, drugs, the equipment was missing or broken. And we had some community meetings and they were just going to fence up the park and tear everything out. And we said, no, we wanted our park. And we were able to voice, we got a design. We took the kids and parents up to Philadelphia to look at different parks. And then when we came back, we had the young people do focus groups by age on what equipment they wanted. Mm-hmm. So they really were invested. And so we were able to raise with other partners $2 million to do a Rodney Street Park. And it's beautiful, and the kids go by, that's our park. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to start with that because not only did we engage the adults, but we also engage the kids. And the other thing that we do is they clean up the park. So when somebody's doing something, they're like, no, this is our park. We have to keep it clean. So that's why it's important to have everybody involved. But I'm very excited about
But I want to say one thing about that part too, that another benefit, not only did it get everyone involved in it and have a say to take ownership of it, but now they're even making sure it stays clean. But another important thing, you said you got about $2 million. That was a local minority-owned contractor who did that work. Am I correct?
Yes.
Who was able to hire people from the community for that work. Yes. So again, community-based economic development is exactly it. Community doing its own economic development and have taken ownership and saying what's happening in their community. Is that right? Am I saying it right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now continue to tell us about.
Okay. So we have the other things we do. We have a youth program, which beautification. We also have Lazarus House, which is a house for men coming out of prison. And we just opened up in January Esther's Place, which is housing for women coming out of domestic violence. Mm-hmm. So we're very proud of that. I just wanted to put that out there because, we really know that there's so much need in our community in various areas and various populations. So, but this next project, I am just ecstatic about. It's Solomon's Court.
But I'm not going to let you get past that need first.
Okay.
Because we have to listen to the audience here. I don't want you to do a commercial. Because
Okay.
needs mean not just, the community needing. The community needs to also give so that we can continue to do these type of programs. Right?
Right.
It's good.
So it was important that the community came out and engaged, and they showed support of what we were doing. And even some people said, "Oh, this is never going to happen." And I turned around and said, "This is going to happen." And that just gave me more energy
Don't just push you to keep going.
to get it
Don't
done.
tell
and
me
it
no,
did get
please.
done. Yeah.
Don't tell us no.
But we have all kinds of needs and resources, but that was important. And Solomon's Court has been one of those projects where resources, needs, manpower, brain power have all come together to put in that community 18 affordable apartments and 6,000 square feet. 18.
18.
We're trying 20. We're waiting on that corner property. They haven't sold yet. And 6,000 square feet of commercial space, which will be leased out to small and minority businesses. Mm-hmm. And we're just ecstatic about that.
And where is this located in the city?
This is located at 1500 West 4th Street, which is on the corner of 4th and Rodney, which is diagonal to our church, which has envisioned doing work in the community for some time. And I just want to say it is a $10 million project. But that project is going to be owned by the community. So it is a community asset that can be leveraged for future investment in the community, and we will be doing that.
We are doing some things, and and we can't do this. I kind of showed you, ladies and gentlemen, how personal relationships turn into business relationships, sharing of knowledge and resources, and coming together on a shared vision is what community-based economic development. So yes, our communities, and I'm speaking mostly about my inner city communities, have a lot of needs, but we also have a lot of assets that all we need to do is you to come to the table. Civic association meetings, am I correct?
Yes.
Civic association meetings, so we know what it is as a collective voice that we need. Then you have your government. So this is what they call a PPP. I never get that right. You might hear about a 3P project. And it's private-public partnership. So we have nonprofits, that are doing community-based development, and I, represent government and community at the same time. But we also have some other nonprofit partners, and that's my other guest that we have here, Ms. Dionna Sargent from Sinear. And you built your partnership in both of the CDCs, correct?
Yes, correct.
Well, you're everywhere.
I try to be.
So thank you, and she's my coalition of 100 Black Women coalition sister. So welcome, my sister.
Thank you so much for having me, and I must say it's an honor to be here with women that I really admire. So thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So tell us who and what Sinear is.
Yes, so Sinear is a nonprofit organization, and we are a community development financial institution, a CDFI. And so our role is to essentially serve as an intermediary between banks and the community. So a lot of the work that we do is to support organizations like the Central Baptist CDC and Be Ready CDC. And we have so many other partners that we're working with in the city of Wilmington to support their very impactful projects. And a lot of people know us historically as the Delaware Community Investment Corporation, DCIC. So we have actually been in Wilmington and Delaware for over 25 years, working to fund very impactful projects, affordable housing development projects, a lot of multifamily development projects that are financed through the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Project, but also important community development projects and community facilities. Some projects that we've historically financed are projects such as the Thomas Edison Charter School. We've financed daycare centers. We've financed the Henrietta Johnson Medical Center, and organizations like the Queen that bring arts and culture. So we have a very long and lengthy history in funding very important community development and affordable housing projects here in Wilmington.
Well, you're the kind of partner that we like to keep close. I'm telling you. So even my previous show, we had Van Hampton from True Access Capital, and he also was a CDFI as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, there's two major resources, where there's resources for us to do our community-based economic development, but it takes collaboration, it takes coming together, and it takes planning, And so I think in all that we talked about, one of the most important part, because I know what Reverend Keeling had to do because he was forming the Central Baptist CDC, and you said it's 10 years old, but he started off doing asset mapping he in focus groups, and you said the same thing, Reverend Lottie, that there was community involvement. What do you want? Where, what does it look like? What color is it? How it should be done, and that's so important. And I think the thing I'm trying to really get across to our listening audiences is that your community engagement, coming in an hour a month to your civic associations and planning, because I know sometimes where patience is really thin. We got an idea. Okay, we think it sounds good, and you think it's going to materialize like that. It doesn't work like that. 10 years to get to where you are, and Reverend, look at all the things you've done in over your scope of time doing your work. So, and the organizations that you mentioned, how long they've been functioning. So, patience is what we need, and continuing to work together. You want to share? I
just wanted to mention, many people are so excited that the former Lacey's restaurant at 7th and
Chicken Fingers
Church.
Right.
Well, listen, the COVID interrupted everything. We already have renovated 2 apartments on the top floor. And many of you know Evolve and her wonderful cuisine. We're just waiting for this COVID to finish because the contractors were like, oh, they won't let us go to work. It's too close quarters. And we're still raising money, but we're going to make it happen because that's going to be a beautiful spot. It's going to have Wi-Fi. Evolve is not just doing breakfast and lunch. It's going to be a full-service restaurant in our neighborhood.
Right.
And it's our building. The CDC owns the building, like Lottie said, Reverend Lottie. We have to have ownership. And if it's through a community-based development organization, that ownership can be long term.
Right. I remember when I first took your class, Raheeemah, at the neighborhood house, your community development certification course, and that was before I got into public service. But just to learn what could be done and what other communities was doing, and what we, and knowing. Wilmington's but so small, so somebody who knows somebody, or knows something, or knows how to do this or know how to do that. Just imagine the collective energy that comes about in that the collective thought of community-based development. So I know that people saying things that, well, nothing's happening in our communities and our communities have been forgotten, and that has a lot of validity to it. But I'm saying, are we going to wait for somebody else to come do it, or are we going to come together and roll up our sleeves, do our research, write it down, bring in partners, and rebuild our community? I think we have an example of this right here with the Central Baptist CDC and Be Ready Central CDC. That's on the west side and the east side, and then we have working the wetland in South Bridge. And there's more to come, ladies and gentlemen, more to come. But I wanted you to know more about what the tool of community-based economic development is, and the great talents we have right here in my guests.
I just want to mention that community-based economic development does include community organizing. And I'm certain that both Pastor Lee would definitely say that a lot of what they do is getting the word out and getting information in, because it's about everybody being informed and being able to have input.
Well, evidently was input that was given to Reverend Lottie, because that's why you knew you needed those domestic violence locations.
Right. We did a blueprint community, which required months of planning, getting information, walking around, and just surveying people as to what the needs of the communities were and what they wanted. More importantly, what they wanted the community to look like. So.
Okay. And that's important, is the asset mapping. We have to know, everybody says we need. Okay, but that's We need.
Right.
And so when you do go to the powers to be with I need, what we really need to say, I need, and here it is written out, here's what I need, this is what I want, this is how it's done, and I know you got the money because I read that budget line, and it's right there, and I got partners that's going to, I mean, that's how it gets done. That's how it gets done. They that, they need to do this and they need to do that. I've not found Mr. Day yet.
Well, you're unique because you know that there are assets in our communities as well. So the difference is everybody kind of knows the needs.
Yeah.
Oh, housing, education, low scores, economic issues. But what about the assets? Mm-hmm. And that's something that I always appreciated about you, Hanifa. You knew that there were assets, individual assets, nonprofit assets, even if they weren't incorporated. We had community-based organizations that were doing so many things, teaching the children how to sew, how to cook, how to be, culturally competent.
Our neighborhood is rich, and I will not give up on my neighborhood to think that we don't have what it takes to bring our neighborhood back, which is why I want to do this show and bring those assets too. You wanted to share?
Yeah, I just want to say I think this topic is very important because the information that's gathered at the community level is really helpful for organizations like Sinear. Our approach is not to be top down and to go into a community and say, this is what you need, this is how you should do it, and here's how we're going to help you. It really is bottom up. It's going into communities, understanding what the needs are, understanding what the priorities are, and seeing what resources Sinear can bring to the table to help support and advance those very important projects. When we merged with the organization in Michigan, Great Lakes Capital Fund in 2013 and became Sinear in 2015, we were able to expand the breadth of our work to really support impactful projects in these communities. So it's really important for us to understand the needs on the ground so that we can help support access to capital, capacity building, and technical assistance so that we can be bottom up.
And I know, we could talk about this forever, because all of us are so, you'll have so much information to share. But I just want to kind of wrap it up because we're getting to that time on the show. A half an hour is just never enough, but I think it's just enough to just drop the seed to let people know that, it can be done with each one of us coming together, working together. And I know our community has been surveyed and we never seen the results of those surveys. But that's because we just we gave the information, but we wasn't at the table doing the organizing, and that's the most important thing. Because everything I've heard you say for Central Baptist and for Be Ready is that the community owns the development, and they're the ones in charge of it. So we're going to continue to share, encourage our community, go to your civic associations, be involved in neighborhood planning councils, and lend your voice. And get engaged and help rebuild your neighborhood. It's not government, it's not private, it's the communities that can do this. And with partners such as Sinear, another nonprofit, and working and supporting already community development corporations as the Central Baptist and Be Ready, Wilmington is back to be what it is. Right?
Yes.
Ladies, you just don't know how much I really appreciate you coming and sharing. My friend here for life has been Sister Raheeemah Jabbar-Bey, Reverend Lottie Lee. I truly applaud your great work that you're doing, you and your church and your Community Development Corporation. And Dionna, Sargent, thank you for being in Sinear and being that kind of partner who understands the importance of supporting neighborhoods and doing the work from the grassroots up. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in again to another series of Hanifa Up Close and Personal. Please stay tuned for our next show on Sunday when we bring some more facets of the things that I've done along with everyone else. And hopefully, most importantly, that you learned something how you too can tap into the assets and the resources that are here in the city of Wilmington. Ladies, sisters, thank you so much for being on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in.